up on global business, the China-ASEAN Expo is underway in South China's Nanning. Chinese Premier Li Qiang calls for closer ties and pledges a fairer business environment at the event's opening. Celebrating 10 years of the Belt and Road Initiative, our reporters are on the ground in UAE to explore how the BRI is supporting local development. And as world leaders gather in New York for the UN Sustainable Development Summit, we look back at the UN's past efforts to address global warming. Hello and welcome to this edition of Global Business on CGTN. I'm Guan Xing in Beijing. The China-ASEAN Expo is underway in Nanning, capital city of South China's Guangxi. Nearly 2,000 enterprises are attending the four-day event, up more than 18% from last year's edition. Official data shows that some 470 projects have been signed with a record investment of over 480 billion yuan or $65 billion in total. A number of forums have been staged to discuss China-ASEAN cooperation across diverse areas, including e-commerce, environmental protection, energy cooperation, the blue economy. Organizers have also set up special exhibition areas for digital technology and industrial design. The expo, which celebrates its 20th anniversary this year, has become a major platform facilitating cooperation between China and Southeast Asian countries. On Sunday, Chinese Premier Li Qiang delivered a keynote speech at its opening ceremony. Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim sat down with CGTN's Liu Yang during the 20th China-ASEAN Business and Investment Summit. The Prime Minister shared insights into the two countries' diplomatic ties and his perspective on the benefits that the BRI has brought to Malaysia and the rest of the region.
Thank you very much for your time, Prime Minister. In 2013, Chinese President Xi Jinping proposed building a closer China-ASEAN community with a shared future. What progress has been made in China and ASEAN relations over the past decade, and how can both sides further implement this vision in the future?
Initially, the proposal by President Xi Jinping is a visionary one, looking at the enormous potential within China and ASEAN, and the collaboration would benefit both ASEAN and China. And I think going through from 2013 to the present, you can see the phenomenal increase. And so the future looks bright, because the last ASEAN meeting last week in Jakarta, Premier Li Qiang then continued to impress ASEAN member states about China's commitment to continue and readiness on the part of ASEAN to benefit from economic advancement by China. In the case of Malaysia, we have benefited because we have advanced the ECR, East Coast Railway, and it's near completion, hopefully in a year's time. And that is a great showcase in terms of relationship between China and Malaysia. But I think now in terms of infrastructure, is expanding to probably what is more critical to us is, of course, investments and infrastructure in the key areas like ports, other than the other investments that they are involved in, Geely, Rongshan, and related companies.
How would you assess the state of Malaysia and China relations, and what's your expectations for the future development?
I would say excellent. Some minor issues have been discussed extensively on a friendly basis. I've been here twice. I've met President Xi Jinping, and 3 meetings with Premier Li Qiang, which is impressive, of course. And the meetings are cordial and beneficial, because we address a number of bilateral, regional, and global issues. And so I would see the potential, not only in terms of trade and economic and investments, which of course pivotal, which to us remains to be key and fundamental, but to now extend it to education, training, digital transformation, food technology, and I think therefore the relations between Malaysia and China, and I'm sure extending to ASEAN, has a great future.
Over the past decade, 152 countries and 32 international organizations have signed up to the Belt and Road Initiative. As the initiative hits its 10-year mark, CGTN's reporters have traveled to 22 Belt and Road nations across Asia, Africa, Europe, and Latin America to uncover stories of collaboration, transformation, and people-to-people exchanges under the framework. Starting from Beijing, a group of our reporters have embarked on a 4-leg journey to the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, and Thailand. In this episode, our reporter Liu Jiaxin visits Camellicious, the world's biggest camel milk processing facility. She spends a day on a camel ranch at the facility and brings us the story on what some call the region's soft gold.
Here we are at the largest camel farm in the world. Just look at this. What an epic view.
On a farm spanning 15 square kilometers, the camels at this huge royal residence in Dubai called Camellicious begin their morning exercise.
In the evolutionary history of the Arabian Peninsula, dromedary camels were once vehicles and they were brave mounts to the battlefields. But with the birth of the city, their role has changed a little bit. Well, this farm is able to provide them with vast land so they can exercise in order to produce what they call quality camel milk. Oh, hello. Hello, cutie.
Camels are evolved and adapted to the harsh arid zone. They can tolerate the heat, they can survive, and they can produce good amount of milk with less water resources and less feed.
Chief veterinarian Dr. Yuhes has been studying camels for decades. She repeatedly tells me how camels are docile and attractive animals. When I approach one of them, the 2-meter-tall female seems more shy than I am, probably because I disturb her when producing milk. The milking process is efficient and orderly. At the feet of the camel is the factory where the milk is collected, sterilized, and cooled. More complex processing, including the production of bottled milk, powder, and other dairy products, involves higher level of automation. Of the 15,000 liters of camel milk produced a day on the farm, 110 liters of fresh milk are served to the royal palaces every day.
It tastes a little saltier than cow milk.
Studies show dromedary camel's milk is half lower in fat than cows and higher in vitamins and minerals. Although still scientifically unproven, Dr. Yuhes says her observations suggest camel milk is also more friendly to people who are lactose intolerant. The non-stop, stable output points to larger and more distant markets for the United Arab Emirates.
Last year on December 9th, China approved UAE's camel milk products to enter its market. Now this project is officially launched.
Chinese market is very important to us. We are selling a big portion of our production to the Chinese market, and we are looking to increase the export to the Chinese market.
Just 20 years ago, camel milk had extremely low yields due to traditional grazing, but now it's an increasingly accessible option on global tables. Liu Jiaxin, CGTN, Dubai.
The 6th China Arab States Expo will take place on Thursday in Yinchuan, the capital of northwest China's Ningxia Autonomous Region. And first held in 2013, the expo has become an important platform for China and Arab states to promote pragmatic cooperation and advance high-quality Belt and Road cooperation. And now for more insights on the trade ties between China and Arab states, we're joined by Li Yong, chief researcher of DNC think tank. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Li. So, in which areas do you think are China and Arab states expected to strengthen cooperation at the upcoming expo?
Well, I think the first area is the Belt and Road Initiative. There is an important forum during the expo that is going to be about the promotion of trade and investment along the Belt and Road, and there are 8, I think, areas that will be covered in the sub-conferences, including, for example, the Business Summit, the high-quality agriculture development, the technology transfer and innovation cooperation on water resources, on the online Silk Road, and interestingly, there's also a forum on the high-quality meteorological development. And I believe those areas being discussed, being talked about during the expo is going to be a herald the future direction of cooperation. And if you look at the exhibition areas, and there are 3 interesting exhibitions being added to the past focus of, for example, of the cutting edge or the frontier areas like digital, like e-commerce and so on. But the 3 new may indicate the future cooperation between the 2 sides. One is there's this designated area for China's state-owned central enterprises, and I believe through this expo and the demonstration of their products and services and so on, there will be some sort of cooperation bilaterally, and likely also, in the third country market under the umbrella of Belt and Road Initiative. So the other one, I think, is about the meteorological cooperation. I think that also is going to herald, the area that the future cooperation, is going to develop. And this and the other one, I think, that is called Smart Meteorology Exhibition. And the last one, which is very important, I think it is going to be the direction that both sides will put a lot of effort to develop. That is manufacturing and technology. So all in all, there are a lot of areas that both sides and the exhibitors wanted to develop during this exhibition and for their future development of the relationship.
A lot of new dynamics. Yeah, Mr. Li, the UAE is China's largest Arab trading partner. How has cooperation between the 2 countries generated strong economic complementaries?
Well, I think, if we talk about the complementarity, we will have to talk about non-oil trade. And, China's trade with UAE, non-oil trade accounted for 30% of the total trade of non-oil trade of the Arab states. And that is significant. And specifically, China's non-oil trade with UAE has increased quite robustly. And last year, the increase was 27%. And what is surprising is in the last 5 years, the non-oil trade has increased by 80%. So that, I think, demonstrated the complementary nature of the trade relations between the 2 countries.
Well, thank you very much for your insights. That was Li Yun, Chief Researcher of DNC think tank for us. And now we're heading for a short break. Still to come on the program. As world leaders gather in New York for the UN Sustainable Development Summit, we look back at the UN's past efforts to address global warming.
What are you still standing here for? Come join us.
Take a flight, catch a train, hop on a bus. We are traveling to places of different cultures and languages.
Мы ведем репортаж из Алматы, Казахстан, от Дубай أو Émirats Arabes Unis, desde las calles de Río de Janeiro, للمشاريع في Dhaka, Bangladesh.
And what are we looking for?
Infrastructure along the Belt and Road countries. Stories of how they promote growth and improve lives.
Only on our special series of the New Silk Road.
Now to the partial strike by U.S. auto workers. Talks continue through the weekend, but still no deal. The United Auto Workers Union warns that historic industrial action will expand, and they will do whatever they have to do if the top 3 auto manufacturers do not raise their wage offers. Stellantis had offered a wage increase of 21% over 4 years, which the UAW said was not enough. And as CGTN's Jim Spellman reports, the strike has become a major political issue.
As negotiations continue, striking auto workers walk the picket line.
It feels good that we're actually out here standing up for what we deserve. It's hard. This is not something that everybody wants to do. I don't think anybody wants to do this, but this is what we have to do, so this is what we're going to do.
The United Auto Workers Union and the big 3 U.S. automakers, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, parent company of Chrysler and Jeep, continued talks over the weekend. Union leaders say slow progress has been made, but no deal has emerged. The two sides remain far apart on major issues, including pay raises and the elimination of a tiered system that provides less pay and job security for newer employees. The strike currently includes about 13,000 workers at 3 facilities, but union leaders say that could expand if negotiators don't make significant progress. Meantime, Ford has laid off hundreds of other plant workers, and GM has plans to follow suit, citing ripple effects of the strike on interconnected facilities. Union President Shawn Fain has cast the strike as part of a larger struggle against corporate greed.
We've been accused of causing a class war. Class war has been going on for 40 years in this country. The billionaire class has been taking everything, and the working class has been left scraping paycheck to paycheck, just trying to survive. It's time to put an end to that class war.
President Biden has been sympathetic to workers, encouraging automakers to increase their offers. Other prominent Democrats and progressives are speaking out in favor of workers as well.
They're not just fighting for decent wages and benefits for automobile workers. They're really standing up to the kind of corporate greed that is impacting tens and tens of millions of Americans.
Republicans, including former Vice President and current presidential candidate Mike Pence, blame the strike on Biden's economic policies, including the push for a transition to electric vehicles.
All those hardworking auto workers are living in the same reality every other American's living in, and that is wages are not keeping up with inflation. I also think that this green agenda that is using taxpayer dollars to drive our automotive economy into electric vehicles is understandably causing great anxiety among UAW members.
Polling ahead of the strike showed broad support for the UAW workers, but that could change if the strike drags on and impacts the U.S. economy. Jim Spellman, CGTN, Washington.
The President of the United Nations General Assembly will convene heads of state and government for the 2023 High-Level Political Forum on Sustainable Development on Monday and Tuesday. And for more, let's cross to John Terrett. Hi there, John. Tell us about this year's UNGA.
Hey there, Guangxi. Well, do I look a bit wet, a bit sort of, damp? Well, I am, because we've got a very, very rainy Monday morning in New York. But the good news is that the forecast for the rest of the week is brilliant blue skies and sunshine, so we're living with it. Over my shoulder, you see the borough of Brooklyn and the East River, and we're standing in the very lush gardens of UN headquarters. You can't see it, but just behind the camera is the General Assembly and the Security Council. Now, this is the 78th time there's been a General Assembly of the United Nations, and it just is the biggest political jamboree in the world. I mean, you can't get away from it. It just is, and that's because 193 member countries and their affiliate organizations come here every September, and they're here again this year. And Han Zheng, who is the Vice President of China, is representing the country this year, and it's just been revealed in the course of the last 24 hours that he's going to have bilateral sit-down talks with Antony Blinken, who's the US Secretary of State. Now, this is very important because, as you know, Blinken himself and other key cabinet-level US politicians have been to Beijing in the last couple of months since January to try and smooth the relationships between Beijing and Washington, D.C., and everyone's looking forward, hopefully, to President Xi and President Biden sitting down at the APEC cooperation leaders meeting in San Francisco in November. But for that to happen, they have to smooth the way even more. So for the Vice President to sit down with Antony Blinken, the Secretary of State, is something to watch. Also, we're watching very closely China attending the Climate Ambition Summit. It's hosting the Sustainable Development Cooperation Outcomes event. Han Xiong will also have bilats with the Secretary General and with Dennis Francis, who is the President of the General Assembly, whose slogan for this event is rebuilding trust and reigniting global solidarity. And right now, it is 13 hours GMT around the world. It's 9 o'clock in the morning here, and the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, is getting underway with another fiery speech, the first big event here, the high-level political forum on sustainable development. And the SG is saying that the Sustainable Development Goals are a promise to the people of the world, especially those who are crushed under the grinding wheels of poverty. Finally, President Biden is in town. He got in last night. He ate dinner in the East Village last night. Tonight he's having a fundraiser for his political campaign in 2024 with the stars of Broadway. But as tradition dictates, he will be pretty much the first to speak tomorrow morning, Tuesday. And then later in the day, he will meet with President Zelensky of Ukraine, who is in the United States, or soon will be. Guanjin, back to you.
Well, thank you. Well, it does look a bit cloudy, like the talks going on, but I hope we'll clear up very soon. Thank you for all that information on John Terrett for us. Well, our NISA Solar Dad Perez looks back at efforts to address global warming of the past year.
It's been a year of climate action for the United Nations. The UN Climate Change Conference in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, in November of 2022, concluded with a breakthrough deal: funding for vulnerable countries hit hard by climate disasters.
So at COP27, we've established the fund that will provide one pillar of the response required to ensure loss and damage is addressed.
It is compensation for more developed countries to mainly poorer nations dealing with rising sea levels and extreme weather patterns. Nearly 200 countries signed the agreement. China says it strongly supports the UN's Loss and Damage Fund for developing countries hit hard by global warming. Officials from 24 countries have been negotiating details like which countries should contribute and the mechanism for distributing the money. As a developing country, China has no obligation to pay into the fund.
The U.S. has resisted the creation of this fund for years, fearing legal liabilities for greenhouse emissions causing climate change. The U.S. is the second largest polluter after China.
A transitional committee is in the process of choosing a board to move the project forward. Also, this past March, the UN General Assembly passed a resolution asking the International Court of Justice to help hold polluting countries legally accountable to fight climate change.
This feeling, you know, when the sand is slipping between your fingers, that's what it feels like for us. When we're trying to hold on to our languages, our cultural practices, our land, and it's slipping between our fingers like that because of the adverse effects of climate change.
The Pacific nation of Vanuatu pushed for the resolution after student activists organized a movement.
It's amazing to see and humbling to see how this wild idea that we had 4 years ago make its way from our classroom in the University of the South Pacific to the table or the floor of the United Nations General Assembly. On the face of it, it is not fair. However, we don't have the luxury of talking about it, so we need to act.
A special UN-designated group has sent a warning letter to Saudi Arabian oil giant Aramco, saying its expansion of fossil fuel production and ongoing oil exploration are an existential risk to life and human rights. According to the environmental organization Climate Earth, Aramco is the world's single biggest corporate greenhouse emitter. The company recorded a historic $161 billion profit in 2022. Many say the climate crisis is moving faster than efforts to tame it. July 2023 was the hottest month in recorded history, prompting the UN Secretary General to demand faster action.
The air is unbreathable
The heat is unbearable, and the level of fossil fuel profits and climate inaction is unacceptable. Leaders must lead. No more hesitancy, no more excuses, no more waiting for the others to move first.
Scientists warn transition into green technology is not enough. They say fossil fuels must be phased out, not expanded. Nitza Soledad Perez, CGTN, Miami.
During the weekend, the city of Chengdu hosted the 14th Asian Congress of Nutrition, and our Zheng Junfeng found that after 3 years of the pandemic, Chinese people are paying greater attention to nutrition and well-being, especially mothers and infants.
The Asian Congress of Nutrition is a once-in-4-year gathering of leading researchers and companies in the nutrition industry in Asia. High on the agenda this year are mothers and infants, a group believed to need special nutrition. This group is bolstering a 300 billion yuan supplements market and a 90 billion yuan baby formula market in China, according to data from Frost Sullivan. Both markets are currently seeing double-digit annual growth in the country.
At the exhibition on the sidelines of the 14th Asian Congress of Nutrition, I can only find Tier 2 baby formula from 6 to 12 months, and Tier 3 from 12 to 36 months, and Tier 1 from birth to 6 months baby formula missing because advertising for such formula are prohibited owing to the belief that they may discourage breastfeeding, which is believed to be the best way to feed newborn babies.
The Chinese Nutrition Society's Yang Nianhong says breastfeeding provides the best nutrition for babies, especially in the first 6 months after birth. But for various reasons, some mothers are unable or unwilling to breastfeed. Baby formulas can be a useful solution.
因为配方粉的目的就是学习和模拟母乳。
Clinical research is trying to make baby formula more and more like human breast milk. As our understanding of the nutrients in breast milk deepens, our expectations for formula products continue to grow. Now, formulas not only focus on providing nutrition, but also aim to incorporate bioactive substances that bolster babies' immune systems.
Baby formula companies are introducing new products that comply with China's new national standards, which combine LPN, HMO, SN2+, and ELF+ probiotics. These nutrients are believed to be essential for the development of babies' immune systems, cognitive functions, and muscular functions.
There are a number of trends. First of all, it's the lifespan. It's not only being pregnant and then giving birth and feed your child. It's really the span of the whole pregnancy, being healthy when you try to conceive a baby as a couple, then healthy pregnancy, of course healthy infancy, but also healthy child and development and children at school and children going to university.
Another trend is a rising demand for supplements to boost the immune systems of people of all ages.
Immune protection, and that's always been important, protection against disease. But of course, because of COVID and the pandemic, people are more aware of the immune system and protection against external viruses and antigens.
Zheng Junfeng, CGTN, Chengdu.
And that would do it for this edition of Global Business on CGTN. Thank you for being with us. The Point with Liu Xin is coming up next. Stay tuned.
This is CGTN,
China Global Television Network.